Welcome back to the channel, everybody, for episode 3 of the Wrench Ranch Motorcycle Podcast. I am Mike, and today I'm going to talk about a subject that I've been wanting to talk about for the past 5 days, but have kind of gotten sidetracked and stuff, and just didn't get around to it, so we're going to talk about that today. 5 days ago, Indian had announced, or at least confirmed, that there is a PowerPlus 112 coming out, and they had a couple of sneak peeks online. It's kind of exciting. Working as a service advisor for an Indian motorcycle dealership, I have ridden quite a few 108s on Challengers and Pursuits, stock and modified, and it'll be interesting to see what Indian does with that motor. It's not slated to be any kind of big bore kit that I know of. You have to buy a new model with the 112 already in it. It's not going to be like the 116 when it first launched, was just like an upgrade to the Thunderstroke motor from 111 to 116, but that's not what's happening here with the PowerPlus motors. So this was posted on Indian Motorcycle's YouTube page. Well, I'm not going to play it back completely because I don't want to get hit up for copyright with YouTube. I'm just going to click around it real quick. You can see the guy's dialing a phone out here on a ride that he's taken. They're very elusive on what they're showing you here in the video, but he's punching in 112 on the phone here, a payphone, like where you find payphones anymore. They're pretty rare. So, he types in, 112, green splash to 112, and then for like a split second, they show you PowerPlus 112 on what's essentially, the air cleaner assembly on the side of their PowerPlus motor. So in reality, it's not the air cleaner. It's not even an ignition cover. It's like a beauty cover, though you can get, at least on the 108s, kind of the accessory performance air intake, which is just like an additional path in addition to the regular air filter assembly to give the engine the ability to breathe in more air, and it comes with a calibration card for a tune. This is just straight up 112 cubic inches. The rumor had been around since like February 21st of 2024, so almost a year ago, and this came out of motorcycle.com. Dennis Chung put this out, and I've read this before, and there was a leaked internal memo from Polaris / Indian that talks about, let's zoom this screen in just a bit so it's easier for y'all to read it. We're not going to see any change to the Thunderstroke, and I mean, this could be for North America, this could be worldwide, so I don't know. Nobody's going to know until they launch it officially, right? Which is just going to be a few days. So I'm just squeaking in here with this news on the podcast. It looks like the Chieftain Classic, Springfield, and Roadmaster are going to be available as, they're probably going to be always going to be a dark horse and a standard, at least for the Springfield, the Roadmaster. I don't know if it's going to be a Roadmaster Classic or not, or if it's the Roadmaster that has like the newer squared off front end on it. It'll be interesting to see what they do. If they're still going to make the Springfield, I would have to think that they would do a Roadmaster with the classic fairing and skirted front fender. They do have a Chieftain Classic, so maybe they're bringing back the Chieftain in the classic trim versus the new styling, because I know a lot of people like myself prefer the more vintage look than the restyle that they did. Premium, standard, dark horse. You're going to have the same engine variants for the air-cooled Thunderstroke. You got a 111, you got a 116. But then down here was the part that everybody was talking about for like almost the past year, is you got Challenger Pursuit, Chieftain PowerPlus, and Roadmaster PowerPlus. Now, my best guess is they're probably going to be with the newer styled front end. I don't think the Classic will have, or the skirted fender with the older Indian style, 2014 rebirth, as it were, front fairing. You got a base, a dark horse, an elite, and a limited. But they did show the 108 and an 1834cc 112, and that was leaked, like I said, a while ago. This is the Roadmaster with the newer style front, batwing fairing and a little bit of a skirted fender. It doesn't have the classic, kind of closed off fender and the 17 wheel versus the 19. So I suspect that that's what the PowerPlus is going to end up being. It's going to be a 112 version of this bike plus the Chieftain, which, if you just take the tour pack off of that in the lowers, it's basically your Chieftain. Yeah, I'll put the link to this article, and then you guys can go and read it if you want to read it real quick, or you can just Google it and find it. This is basically what the PowerPlus motor looks like. But I mean, it's just about the same kind of dimensions that the Thunderstroke was. It makes sense for them to make it in such a fashion that these motors can interchange. Emission standards are getting stricter, and because of that, you're going to see almost everything going to liquid cooled eventually, and this is going to be the same for Harley. They're going to have to do it. A liquid cooled head is not going to be good enough. If you want to sell your motorcycle in Europe and not have an EV in your lineup, you're going to need to go liquid cooled, because you're not going to be able to lean out an air cooled motor enough to get it to pass emission standards and still make decent power. You'll make a very anemic motor if it can even pass. So like the Euro 5 or whatever the Euro 6 standard's going to be coming out. I know Polaris and Indian have made substantial headways into Europe, and there's a whole Harley dealer network for Europe and the UK, and they're both going to be in the same boat. So this is a natural evolution for Indian to do this, to be able to continue to sell motorcycles in other countries other than just North America and the United States. This is Indian's own website here, just for some specs on the PowerPlus 108. It makes 122 horsepower at 5,500 RPM, 128 foot-pounds of torque at 3,800 RPM, which is always interesting. I always had guys that would buy the Thunderstrokes. They would start out with a 111, believe it or not, dump a ton of money into it to punch it up to the 116 with the big bore kit, tune it with a Lloyd's tune with cams and intake and exhaust, and still be ticked off that people that were on almost dead stock PowerPlus 108 bikes like Challengers would just smoke them. It does make that much more power, even though in cc's or cubic inches, it's a smaller displacement. It's a more efficient engine. It really is. And I think styling wise, it looks good. It doesn't look as classy as the Thunderstroke motor. The Thunderstroke motor really pays homage to the 1920s, 30s, and 40s Indians. That style and heritage looks good on a Thunderstroke. Restrictions that are coming for the power sport industry, especially in other countries, this is going to be the ticket, liquid cooled. And you see on the Challenger here, and then the Pursuit, you have this really squared off kind of looking radiator area, which it's not the greatest styling. I don't really prefer it. I mean, to each their own. But if you go into the motorcycle lineup and, like, let's say you look at the 25 Scouts, this is going to be the best indicator of what I think a PowerPlus Chieftain and a PowerPlus Roadmaster is going to look like. Okay, so here's a good picture. The down tubes on the frame from the steering head tube coming down kind of shroud the radiator, and this is a pretty big departure in design, like right here, from what the Scout like I have has with a cast bulkhead. It looks more like a traditional frame, and the radiator doesn't look as bad as it otherwise would. The motor looks a lot more like the PowerPlus motor than the original Scout engine did, and I think that's by design. I think they intentionally want the bikes to have that same styling because they knew they were going to be migrating to the PowerPlus in their air-cooled lineup. It's natural that the Chieftain and the Roadmaster are going to become liquid-cooled. Probably the Chief lineup's going to be liquid-cooled, even though they still have the Thunderstroke engine, and I wouldn't be surprised if they put that in the Springfield if they continue to produce the Springfield, because right now there's no Chief image. So if you want the classic skirted style bike, then I would be one of those customers. If I bought a new larger bike, I would definitely want a Springfield. It still has this open frame here, and you can't put that bulky cast aluminum frame, that comes down around the radiator like you have on the outgoing Scout and also on the Challenger and the Pursuit. So if I go back to Bagger and we look at the Chieftain, because that's the main thing, there's a lot of Chieftain customers. I think Chieftains are probably some of the most the number one sold bike that they have. Yeah, here they got a picture here of the original 111 Chieftain. It's got the skirted front fender and the older style fairing. That's kind of what I like, but I don't think that the new PowerPlus 112s are going to ship with that design. So if you think about the way the 2025 Scouts are done, and imagine this frame being shaped in a similar manner, you could easily put a radiator in there. You still have the battery under the seat, so you don't have that battery box in the front. This box in the front, and the radiator and this bulky cast aluminum, which is similar to the Scout. It just doesn't look as good in my opinion, and I didn't think it looked that great on the Scout. I have a Scout, and I've got a 2016 Scout, and the 25 Scout is definitely a cleaner look, even though it's the same size radiator. It's a really clever design, and in person it looks very good. It looks very polished, and when you're sitting on the bike and you're looking down, you don't see the bulky parts of the frame that holds the radiator in place. I think that's what we got coming here. So I actually have a few little things I put together here. Can't really freeze frame this video very well, but right here, that's a Chieftain, and then that's a Challenger. I mean, you can tell just by looking at it, and it definitely has the restyled fairing on it. It doesn't have the vintage style fairing. And it's definitely a dark horse just by looking at it. Now, there's something going on with that headlight. Maybe there's even more of a restyled front end on it. As it goes zooming by, they only show the Challenger there, and then they cut to a long panning shot. And in this shot, that's the Challenger here, and then that's the Chieftain. Now, this was from their PowerPlus Family World Premiere event video they just posted out today, and a really long shot, and I pretty much think that's all you're going to get. Yeah, more the power to roam, and then it's going to say January 24th, so today is the 21st. You got to wait 3 days to see this sucker for sure. Hopefully it means sales pick up, and then I end up back working at the service advisor role there at the motorcycle shop. It's winter, it's cold, no one's buying bikes, so it's a seasonal thing. Enough about my misery and my woes. So what I have done here, there's been a couple of spy photos that people have taken out and about, have been posted up on the Indian Motorcycle Forum, and this was one of them here. Some guy was out test riding this bike, probably putting in required miles on it. It almost looks like there's an inverted fork on there, but I can't tell. But it has a Chieftain fairing on it, right? So what I did, just with some tools on my computer here, and I mocked up what a Chieftain would look like with the PowerPlus motor in it. This area of the frame here is kind of goofy looking, because honestly, I have no idea what Polaris / Indian's going to do with that part of the frame to enclose a radiator. And also this thing here is just it's part of the Challenger image that I snagged the motor from. They would just continue to use the battery box. It's already in underneath the seat. There'd be no reason to not utilize the back half of that frame. All the components are already there. They've already gone through development, how to run the wiring harness, where all the fuse box and the VCM and the ECU and all that stuff, where it has to go, where it has to sit. The packaging requirements say, basically at this point, it's just how do you put the radiator and the stuff needed for liquid cooling into the chassis. And like I said, my estimate is it's going to look a lot like the 25 Scouts. And I think eventually in the next 2 years, all the Indian lineup's going to look like that, and they're going to sunset the Thunderstroke motor. I did not do a Roadmaster version of this, so just imagine lowers on this and a big trunk, right? There we go. Now, you can see my botched up, not very good, picture editing skills, but that's what it looks like, or what it would look like. And I mean, it looks like it should go in there, and clearly it is, because that's what they're announcing. I figured I'd sneak in a little bit of my own kind of like interpretation of what I think it's going to look like. They may have different wheels. They may do an inverted fork like the Challenger has. It would be very unfortunate if they left the frame the same as the Challenger and just put a fairing on it, that the Chieftain has, because I think the frame needs to look cleaner. I'm not a big fan of the way the Challenger looks. There's just something about that battery plastic battery box that sits in the front right there by the radiator that just does not look appealing to me. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. I'm kind of excited about it. It would be cool if they announced some other models. I think they're probably only going to announce the Chieftain and the Roadmaster, and like I said, I think it's just going to have, you know, just the restyled batwing fairing. I don't think they're going to do the classic style. There was some rumor about an even bigger Thunderstroke as kind of like the last hurrah for the Thunderstroke. I don't think that that's going to be in this video. You know, the world announcement they're going to do on the 24th, simply because that it wasn't part of what they discussed. And I think they do this stuff incrementally. We'll find out. I mean, you know, I think the Chieftain's pretty popular. I think you put a 112 in the Chieftain and people are going to stop buying Challengers and going to start buying Chieftains. Some people like the fixed fairing and some people don't. Personally, for me, I have ridden everything Indian has as a service advisor, and I definitely prefer how the Chieftain feels to me. But I think the Challenger has better turn-in because of the inverted forks on it. So, you know, for me, it would be really cool. But styling-wise, I like the Springfield. So I'd love to see the PowerPlus motor shoved into a Springfield, but then keep the Springfield looking like a Springfield. Don't try to over-modernize it. Retro is cool to a point. There needs to be a fine balance with some of the models. And I mean, to me, it's part of Indian's heritage. They need to maintain at least one or two models that have that classic look. Thanks for watching. Much appreciated. If you want to drop some comments down below, let me know what you think, whether you agree with Indian's decision to put the PowerPlus motor in the Chieftain and the Roadmaster. Maybe some speculation on what kind of power it's going to make. It's not, I mean, 108 to 112 is like, what, a 3.7 or something percent increase, roughly. It's not going to be a 3.7% increase in power. You know, volumetric efficiencies and things within the motor that will cause it to make a lot more power. So I think it's gonna punch up pretty hard, and it'll be pretty fun to ride. Thanks for watching. Give me a like, click the bell notifications, and subscribe if you haven't subscribed before. Hopefully soon in the near future. Contractors are almost done with the work on the old basement here. If you don't know what's going on with that, I've got a short covering that information, so check that short out real quick. Then I can get my garage back and get back to regularly scheduled actual working on motorcycle content instead of me blathering on in front of a microphone and a camera. For those of you that do sit around and listen to me blather on about this stuff, again, I appreciate it. And until I see everybody again, ride safe.